What's up, Star Citizens? I am one of your hosts, Phoenix.
And I am your other host, Titan.
And welcome to NTAT. On our Starfield Will Be GOTY video, the participation was amazing, and we thought it'd be fun to comment on our comments. So let's start with these comments, shall we? First off, I want to thank each and every one of you for the correction. You can always rely on the comment section to correct you if you make a mistake, and we appreciate it. It keeps us honest. Contrary to popular belief, I am a big Elder Scrolls fan. I just got overexcited and said a much bigger number than I meant to. Actually, Skyrim will be 12 years old in November. Now that we have that out of the way, Titan, what's your first comment?
So this comment says, I'm really sorry for any game released at this time. This is beyond relatable. With a lot of games being released around this time, it's really hard to actually get into a game right now. When I am just ready to experience Starfield, and during the month of August, I don't see myself fully diving into a new game, especially not paying $70 if it's not available on Game Pass. And for anyone who is just excited as I am to play, this wait is a burden that we all share.
Yeah, at this point, most games that knew Starfield was coming out has gotten out of the way, including Baldur's Gate 3, which I think is going to do absolutely fantastic. Even they decided we need to release earlier.
Alright, but before we move on, go ahead and smash that like button.
Hit subscribe.
And turn on notifications so you never miss a video.
This next comment says, the excitement in my house for this game is palpable. My big worry, as all others I've heard do not concern me much, is the outposts/settlements in defense. In Fallout 4, it really does not seem to matter how many walls or turrets or guards. If your character is not there, they are inside the building and past your defenses. I love this comment because they started off talking about their excitement and then followed with their own personal concerns, and not something that they heard on a YouTube channel and just regurgitated it back as we see so often.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
I think this is a very valid concern, and not one that I've seen until now. I talked about how I want Starfield to continue to feel like a living, breathing world. To this commenter's point, it would take you right out of the experience if your base is Fort Knox and you find enemies behind your defenses.
You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have a lot of respect for people who understand the difference between not liking something and it being bad. There was a similar comment talking about how bad the game is going to be because they don't have land vehicles. I've seen several videos about how terrible and poor game development is because they don't have land vehicle, when truthfully, it's a personal preference. And just because you don't want it and it doesn't have it, doesn't make it a bad game. Also, we have never once said that this game would be for everyone, but don't ruin it for the rest of us who do love it. So, speaking about personal preference, this comment says, I never understood why people obsess over 60 frames per second. Honestly, I am not someone who ever really paid attention to FPS in a game whatsoever. In fact, until I got a PC and turned on the FPS viewer, I hardly even knew there was a difference. Now, I will say that in some games I don't really care and it doesn't make a difference for me at all. But in a game like The Division, for example, 60 frames per second was a very smooth and picture-perfect playthrough. But then when I would have frame drops saying to like 30 to 40 frames per second, it was actually pretty noticeable and choppy. But for Starfield though, I'm not worried about this at all. I understand that there will be frame drops regardless. So for someone who nitpicks, you're really just hurting yourself instead of just having fun.
From a console perspective, I get it. We were promised better graphical fidelity, frame rates, and larger games that couldn't happen on previous consoles. Yep, salespeople sold us a dream, and neither the PS5 nor the Xbox has been consistent on these things. But that's another topic altogether. The reality is there are games that we love and go back to all the time that run 30 frames or lower, and no one complains about how good they are. Yes, frame rates can make the game better for sure, but it's not the end-all be-all. The next comment is, can't wait to build my fleet of ships and all my bases to farm resources to get rich and then survey everything on as many planets as possible, sell as information. I picked this comment because they had a mix of me and Titan. I'm about building my fleet of pirate ships and getting rich. Titan is ready to base build and farming resources. To the commenter, hit us up when the game comes out. We can share tips and stories. As far as character building, I plan on spending hours on my character's looks, personality, and build. So yes, I think we will do some videos on builds thanks for the idea.
I am extremely indecisive on who I want my character to be in the Starfield universe. So until I hop on for the first time and see my character choices that I'm faced with, there are just so many things that I want to be. And I usually stick with being the hero in a lot of games, Hogwarts Legacy being the one exception. But with this game, I am heavily leaning towards being an absolute menace to society. And if this is the route that I go, I do plan on customizing my base and my ship to reflect my gritty personality. As Phoenix says, I am a huge base building person, so adding the ship building part too, it's just too much for my heart to handle. Similarly, this comment says, I am extremely excited for this game because I've always wanted a game where you can travel through space, explore worlds, etc. While there are a few titles out now that have space and planets to travel to, in my opinion, something they all seem to lack is personality and story. Starfield will bring a fresh look at exploration, and I am really excited to see where the story leads me. While I'm a huge fan of base building, I am looking forward to customizing my ship. But really, I'm mostly excited to discover what these worlds have to offer. What can I do? What can I find? And so many questions. But even with every question, I don't really want to see them release a whole lot of information. I want to discover a lot of this stuff on my own.
Well, we've got 3 new animated trailers to look at, so I guess we'll see. This next comment is based off the one you were referencing before. Want to know what I absolutely love about Starfield? Not having land vehicles to explore these massive planets with. Can't wait to traverse the entire planet on foot with a locked 30 frames per second. So brave, so stunning. This is a funny comment, but not why you think. What you like or what you dislike in a game is a personal preference, and therefore valid. When I think about Skyrim 12 years ago, Fallout 4 8 years ago, you realize that a lot of players who will dive in or not, this will be their first Bethesda game. The reason I bring this up is because Bethesda studio games have never been known for their vehicle traversal. It's just not a thing. Fans of these games know it's about the discovery. Even the Elder Scrolls games, they had horses and they were rarely used. Walking around on foot was the most proficient way to discover what the game had to offer. I have nothing against vehicles in games, especially if they're done correctly. Far be it from me to tell someone how to like a game or how to play it. It's just interesting to see someone looking for a feature that has typically been discouraged to get the most out of this type of game. With that said, they could be right. We could get into Starfield and really feel like we need it.
I only have one word to say. I love fast travel.
Titan, that's 4 words, but keep going.
Oh, anyway, while land vehicles are fun, but for this game, it seems to be designed around fast traveling to your ship and then to other places, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
So our next commenter says, Baldur's Gate 3 honestly beats this for me, but I understand the hype. To be honest, as an RPG fan, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be one of the deepest RPGs we've seen in years. I think they're going to skip the whole mainstream, let's water down the RPG elements and make it an action game mentality and go for the throat. But because of that, I don't think this game will even get a vote to be Game of the Year. Mainstream doesn't really like pure RPGs. As a matter of fact, it is the very reason Final Fantasy XVI had such a split in their fan base. If you listen to the interview that the YouTuber SkillUp did with the development team, as Yoshida P talked about, kids these days don't want to play RPGs of old. They only want to play fast-paced shooters and action games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. Because of this mindset across some of the gaming sphere, I can see Baldur's Gate 3 winning Best RPG, but failing to make it into the Game of the Year category.
I don't have anything against Baldur's Gate 3, but I personally don't see it cutting it close to being Game of the Year. My top 2 guesses is going to be Lords of the Fallen 2, which I am extremely excited for, and I can genuinely see it beating out Starfield, but my heart goes to Starfield as number 1. Alright folks, that wraps up our video today, so if you love Starfield and you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe and join us every Friday morning. We'll be there.
You be there.